Welcome back to the Gold Club World Championship, where we have more Heroes of the Storm action. Next up is going to be Team Dignitas versus Beyond the Game. I am Dreadnought. With me is Grubby. Grubby, thoughts on next series coming up? What's going on? What is the status update as things have gone on here through the Day 7, which has back-to-back draws? That's not that surprising considering how competitive these matchups are, but I feel like we've gotten very few draws throughout this tournament. I'm surprised that we get them on the final day.
Yeah, and I think we had reason to believe that KSV would win 2-0 to secure their first place, to secure their dominance. Fnatic were expected to win 2-0 into SPT with a very clear reason, avoiding 4th place and therefore avoiding KSV in the knockout phase round number 1. Fnatic has failed to do so. They went 1-1. SPT had the match of their life. So far, the match of the tournament, really nice game against Fnatic. But then the Korean result happened, 1-1. And that means that Fnatic would have been 4th anyway, even if they had been 2-0, because now they only have 9 points. There's one caveat though. We're expecting Dignitas to win 2-0 in this match against BTG.
Which is a fair assumption, just for anybody who has not kept track of the tournament so far, because Beyond the Game has struggled to find themselves a win here so far, all the way even up to day number 7.
Yeah, and as much as we've been hoping for them, rooting for them to do well, you know, it's always nice an underdog story. They have as of yet been unable to get a map win. Now, humor for a second that Dignitas indeed wins 2-0. That means Dignitas gets 2nd place in the group. They will face 3rd place Ballistics. Fnatic, 4th place, will meet KSV 1st place. However, if BTG wins one map, Dignitas will be in a tiebreaker with Fnatic, where the loser meets KSV, who are arguably the scariest opponent. If Dignitas loses 2 maps, if BTG wins 2 maps, Dignitas will be 4th, behind everyone, and will face KSV as well. It is in Dignitas' best interest not to take this match lightly, where they have everything to lose and BTG has nothing to lose. And we could see from SPT, once they got pushed to the point where they had nothing to lose, what they did, Dreadnought.
I think that's a great point. I was just going to say, you know, what happens whenever these Chinese teams do not have anything to lose? SPT brought up a great game against Fnatic in Game 2 and kind of, you know, rustling the jimmies of the standings that we've had so far.
Oh, I wish jimmies were rustled. I miss my man, Rainer.
but I do also want to say that though BTG does not have anything to lose, they have had 7 days of nothing to lose. Let's just, you know, let's say at least say 5 days so, where they took that kind of role of the clear underdog throughout this tournament. So though we have seen China come to life when they have had nothing to lose, BTG is still trying to find their own reins. Matt Band's dig is going to rid of Warhead Junction. Tomb of the Spider Queen taken off by BTG. No surprise against any European team to see that Band. And Dig's going to go ahead and lock in Dragonshire.
Now we've seen so far from BTG, we've talked about what it means now for these teams. And for BTG, obviously, it would be their first map win. Now let's talk strategy. BTG has had a pretty heavy emphasis on being more proactive than, for example, SPT had been so far. Proactive, aggressive. We've been seeing them pick standard picks like Greymane, Rhaegar and Dahaka, but also a fair amount of Genji is being looked at by BTG.
If we do see the Genji picked up for BTG here on Dragonshire, that is going to put a lot of focus towards the top lane. And Dignitas, not only is this their map pick, which obviously they show some strength when it comes to the different types of strategies on this map, but also I feel like would be very comfortable dealing with that because they themselves have been comfortable picking up the Genji on Dragonshire and trying to put that focus towards top.
Yep.
We also have to consider, you know, the opportunity of the Tracer play to Dignitas as a team that's comfortable to bust that out even on the, you know, a wave clear oriented map because they just have so much kill potential it becomes too big of a problem. But BTG, they're worried about the wave clear themselves as they pick up that first pick Rhaegar.
Tracers, what Dignitas will pick if the opponent has first pick TAS to deny it. But now with that gone, very logical to go with the Genji Dahaka. Dahaka can hold his own in the early, mid and late game. He's never the best at laning beyond a doubt, but he's always good enough to play and outplay, and you get that global part. And then you take Genji, not only taking it away from BTG, preventing some kind of bullying of your own solo lane, but Snitch is a phenomenal Genji player, and they can try to use it to force early game mistakes by BTG in that top lane.
So now, knowing that and having the Dahaka taken away, which is one of the best at being able to deal with those ganks up on top, where are we going to see BTG pick for their solo top? They do lock in the Arthas. Does not have to be the solo top. Does not have to be committed to the 4. He's one of the few heroes in the game that can kind of be vague on a map like Dragonshire. He accents both pretty proper and holds his own into a Dahaka as well.
Yeah, Arthur is a by-lane hero. He's vague on his exact role.
Yeah, he's
still
trying to find himself.
Human, undead, not sure. Dignitas bans out Abathur to remove another difficult aspect. They don't want to get outplayed in an alternative aspect. They would like to let their good macro mechanics and team fighting do well.
I'm sorry, I'm trying. Oh, man. The Uther, though, does feel a little bit curious just because he hasn't been so prominent within the meta. It does pair with the Genji, but with the Rhaegar already picked up, it just feels like the teamfight capabilities and the lack of everything else he provides other than kill potential into the 4, it just feels like I feel like there could have been a better resource use onto that secondary ban. I mean, it works with the comp of Dignitas, but are they pulling enough out of the 4-man in particular? Maybe focus onto wave clear a little bit more. Even with that, though, the Uther ban on the side of BTG, Dignitas didn't commit to any wave clear whatsoever. More kill potential into their 4-man with a Garrosh and a Kharazim.
That's true, and you know it remains always Divine Shield Genji is a big threat, and just looking at that synergy and removing it is fine. Especially a team like Dignitas, what they can do with it. But this is a cool pick by Dignitas. Garrosh, Kharazim, very much about that team fight. This is Poyok. He's probably going to be on a mage,
which is yet to be picked up.
And it looks like, so far, not only is Gul'dan good, but also probably needed. Wow, is that the second Medivh of the tournament, I think?
Yeah, I believe it's the second Medivh first Malthael that I can think of.
Yeah, I think so too.
In response to the Garrosh, it holds pretty well into the Dahaka as the solo top.
Yeah, and you know, Medivh supposed to be one of the best counters to Garrosh. He's my go-to in Hero Leagues. When opponent takes Garrosh, you can force of will and give protected status to a victim and portal them out. It's fantastic.
But what it does do is make the top very, very vulnerable to Genji in particular.
Yeah, you gotta use Medivh to scout the mid-top rotation as much as you can. And if you do that, then you wouldn't be on immediate assistance for a flip target. You could also do Greymane Rhaegar top lane, but that's not what you take Malthael for usually. Malthael is cool too because he counters Garrosh's armor mechanic. So BTG is just doing really obvious bans and picks to counter heroes. I do like it. It's gonna be Ming. Gul'dan would have had more wave clear sway.
Would have had more, yeah. It would have had a lot more wave clear, but it would have been vulnerable to the dive bomb that is the Medivh plus Arthas composition. To be honest here, Grubby, I feel like Dignitas is very comfortable with this series, and their draft kind of displayed it early on. But the adjustment in the final 2 picks out of BTG makes me go, remove the names from this, and I would be very scared for the composition that Dignitas drafted.
I think it's a 30-70 in favor of BTG if you don't look at the names. Draft-wise, I feel like BTG outdrafted them, same as you.
But it's Dignitas, and they do have a composition that can isolate, flip, one-shot a target very, very fast, double resets to be able to snowball it out of control.
True.
And that is going to make BTG, because it's a basic cooldown rather than a heroic massive play for the Garrosh, consistently have to make the proper play, right? And that is where, given enough time, it's likely that I think we can see that Garrosh flip into that, what Dignitas intended with this composition. It's just, I did not expect that bold of a move from BTG, and more so not as well thought out as it was with those last 2, Malthael and Medivh. Their composition is very, very, very scary in full 5-on-5 team fights. It's the laning phase that is the only thing that makes me go, are they going to be able to hold their own? And early game's been a struggle for them from time to time to be able to find themselves on even footing. Imagine a world where Medivh just doesn't get his Master's Touch in time. He becomes a very, very weak hero.
Maybe you take Arcane Explosion. We smart.
Oh.
You don't have to go a Master's Touch if you're not a Master, which is most of the players in Heroes of the Storm, obviously, but this is competitive players. Probably that's going to be it. Anyway, Dignitas here on the left from Europe in the blue, Zelia on Karateem, Snitch on Genji, Poik on Liming, Wooby on the Haka, and JPL on Garrosh.
In the red, looking to get their first win here, it is Beyond the Game. ST on Medivh, A on the Greymane, 619 playing Arthas, Malthael played by ZJZ, and MJ on Rhaegar. On a Pale Horse was the choice for the Malthael at level 1, so automatically indicating he wants to be able to match Dahaka with the rotational laning situation?
Yeah, it's like, it's mostly about recognizing you will be in the one-on-one lane. You'll have to play extra safe due to the lack of that movement speed. But when Dahaka burrows bottom, you'll chase him faster.
It only feels a bit curious because normally we see that only into Dahakas when trying to match them when they're going to run a 1-4, like on a map like Infernal Shrines. You can expect Dahaka getting the side soak at different angles of the map, but on a map like Dragonshire, there's going to be very few situations until very, very late into the game where Dahaka might be considering those types of transitions. And so it feels responsive, but not responsive to how I expect Dignitas to play out this map.
I mean, I guess it even gets him to the Shrine a little bit faster, but
that's a good point.
It is not nearly as safe in a team fight. Just to keep in mind, the alternative talent is 25% movement speed every half minute or so for 4 seconds. Great to chase and get away. And Malthael's wave clear isn't that fast, so it's not like this talent gives him faster double laning. He can't double lane, it takes too long. So it's really very much about adapting to a situation and grouping up. Now BTG is adapting to the one-on-one lane that you were afraid of as well, where Genji bullies a solo Mouth. They're putting Greymane top. Problem is, no self-heal.
Another, the reason I feel like I conveyed that type of concern is not only because it's going to be a difficult laning situation for BTG up and towards top, is more importantly how difficult it can be to understand how much pressure needs to be applied to top and not commit too much resources into that top lane. But because of the lack of wave clear that exists on the side of Dignitas, it's not nearly as unforgiving as you normally see, to where you don't have to just go, okay, cycle top, pressure out of wave, zone off, now we need to stick to the 1-4. Once we balance that back out, okay, go back top, and you're really just making it to where Dignitas never gains their footing. But because Dig's wave clear is so poor, they can get away with this kind of bullied 2 versus 1 on top, and Dig really can't say much about it.
What Dignitas is getting is some nice tower damage. Took down 1 tower mid already, now getting some towers bot. And it's only Rhaegar here for now, with no punishment yet. You would like to see Arthas come down to help, and then someone else take over mid.
And this, well, see, this is what I was trying to, the flip over the wall, the disengage, there's no wall removed, so I don't think there's going to be a situation where A can find his way out of here.
Nearly Force of Will portal, that was so close actually.
Like a fraction of an inch for anybody who didn't see the Raven flinging over the wall there. Dignitas, though, with that flip, they find that first blood of the game. But that's kind of what I was talking about with how much commits towards top, because if you commit too much, Dig will match you, even though they have a losing laning situation. So what you have to do is bully the lane into the that you can get that mismatch, then contribute to other aspects, and then go back up there. Even though you feel like you're winning it faster by committing the 2-man up there for long periods of time, it actually eventually just sets Dignitas back to even footing. It's one of the hardest things to be able to deal with whenever your opponent's winning the 1 and winning the 4. It's the best way to be able to stop the pressure on all angles of the map. In that case, if you're losing the 1, you're losing the 4, you're definitely losing the game. But it is still one of the easiest ways to slow down the pacing.
Apply top pressure, force more rotations rather than vanilla pushes.
Yes.
And then stop pushing again, because you're ultimately looking to buy time, not to...
The problem on the other side of that is if you become too predictable in that next rotation, then it becomes equally as damning, right? It's just your opponent will invert you or invert the rotations to be able to make sure they're always capitalizing elsewhere, or just sit there and bait and wait a trap.
BTG has 3 members at the top. They'll continue to push out, looking to make Wooby's home not nearly as safe. Taking a fountain would be a big gain, but in comes JPL once again. Garrosh sharking in, now gets into vision. Wooby did exactly what he needed to. The portal! The portal!
It's getting body blocked off.
Yeah.
Malthael's unable to make it through. At first, he would have been able to get the portal, but only if he immediately clicked on the portal the second it went down.
He took 1 step up.
And then everybody got the body block in, and Dignitas says, we're not going to let you through.
That could be a portal mistake, the exact location, recognizing Malthael is going to see red and try to run in panic. Or just a communication. Where are you going to place it? A ping, as simple as 1 ping. But it was a very, scary situation.
And in the draft phase, when we saw the fact that Malthael was going to be picked up and deal with this Dahaka on top, and the Genji in the hands of Snitch, talking about the Genji in the hands of Snitch, almost got that reset onto A. Nice Medivh shield from ST. ZJZ, though, caught out between all the members of Dignitas. Doesn't last too long there with all that damage out from Poik.
Yeah, good moves here by Dignitas. Finding a kill here and there. And getting away as well.
What I was going to touch up on, though, is that this home of Wubby that's slowly getting shattered by Beyond the Game. Let's just say they take the top 4. Start looking at what the laning situation in the top lane begins to look like. Genji has pretty effective ganks up on towards top, as Wubby might actually be under too much pressure. I'm just trying to talk about the laning situation here, but they bring so many fights up towards top, we never get a chance. Wubby hits the drag on Medivh, and another kill for Dignitas. Nice. Snitch is just unleashing. In
comes Snitch with another takedown. That's 5 pieces, level 10 as well. That should be the Dragon Knight. But yeah, I can totally see where you're going. Let's say if they kill that entire top forward, can you then gank Dahaka with Genji being able to counter-react?
Can Malthael push the lane at all? Dahaka's going to keep it pushed into his base, and he says, I dare you.
Yeah.
Come to my side of the map. You are dead every single time you take that trade.
Because you don't have teleportation.
And you just don't have the survivability that a Dahaka has. You are very, very vulnerable as a Malthael when you overextend in those circumstances, to the point where I'd like to see them try and keep that lane up. Just because, again, Genji will kill the Malthael in that type of situation. How do you make up for it? Have the Medivh baby you, but then you lose so much into the 4 and the pressure that the Garrosh and the reason the pick came to life. Anyways, Wubby hits an isolation on bottom. He needs to hit a drag too, but he won't be able to do so. So no kill there onto MJ.
BTG doing their best they can to get some stacks on Medivh. Nice portal actually to make sure that he stays close. Arthas gets taken out here presumably by a JPL flip.
And though that problem does exist for Beyond the Game up on the top lane, it doesn't exist for Dahaka because of his survivability. So the fact that Dignitas pressuring this mid-game Dragon Knight up towards top is, I feel like, a lot better educated than some of the transitions that we've seen out of Beyond the Game. But now Wubby has kind of made his home down towards bottom as the split pressure's there. Both of the members, or all the members of Dignitas that are not pressuring those side lanes are picking up the Giant camp. And I would assume that this is going to be a triple camp on bottom, push play from Dignitas, and abuse the 13 talents here. This is one of the few things Dignitas do better than every other team in this tournament on Dragonshire. They totally capitalize on the lower bottom lane and a mismatch in laning situation far better, to where they will force objectives that everybody else is waiting for a Dragon Knight for.
Okay, so they get the 2 camps, 2 out of the 3 that you mentioned, and you think they'll push hard bottom lane?
You just poke around while you have the 13 talents here. Who's going to move up to stop you?
But they don't have it yet.
They are going to be able to pick it off of a double giant onto 1 turret, and then that gets them, what, 12 3/4? The best play here is a leyline seal all in, and you cannot fight into 4 giants like this.
True. Especially after they take down those towers, they're going to start to retarget on the minions now. Anyone in that minion wave will take splash damage.
BTG moving
up. They are moving in. They're doing pretty much what is needed. Taking down the giants right before 13.
I'm surprised Dignitas didn't commit to that secondary turret to try and make sure they would hit the 13 window. It does cause them to back out.
But BTG unable to force the fight pre-13, and that means they're going to have to make themselves scarce for a very long time indeed.
619 finds Zalia, but the Radiant dash out, and dodging the Howling Blast is going to ensure that he keeps his life.
Could be a top. Oh!
Medivh portal out.
Mini portal.
Yeah, that was it was a baby portal. Not enough to be able to
portal in a portal. A portal in a gate.
A gets flipped there after a nice wave of force. Snitch is going to go ahead and get the alley-oop after Poik got that set up. Nice Warlord's challenge. The Ancestral unable to connect. 619, though, will keep himself alive. 10 seconds out from the next Dragon Knight phase with those 3 members now dead. The global advantage and positional advantage for Dignitas. Immediate Dragon Knight, and really, what else are they going to get beyond this point?
Well, what do you think this Dragon Knight should be able to get for Dignitas? A keep, or do they do double fort?
I'm expecting that they're going to go for a fort front wall, a fort double front wall on both the keeps. I like keeping top open a little bit longer, but they've also been one of the higher prioritizing middle game, top lane teams with this Dragon Knight. But the double keep front wall, experience for this mid-game Dragon Knight is, in theory, the most beneficial to snowball it out of control.
Yeah, I think so too. You have this kill comp, and peeling away all the defensive layers can be very nice. Keep is easy to defend, the catapult pressure that early game. Nice kill there with the Dragon Blade on Rhaegar as well. Greymane, Rhaegar. Arthas, that's a triple kill by Snitch.
That was just a Really great job, Snitch, trying to get the turnaround there. That being said, beyond the game, you can see the panic kind of setting in here. That was not a team fight that they necessarily had to try and force beyond.
Well, just the fact that they haven't used any heroics in the team fight, when ideally there's two ways to start a fight: Army of the Dead, Howling Blast, or Leyline Seal.
Tormented Souls is pretty good as well.
Yeah, start with that, get your Ancestral ready. They were caught unawares. They decided to meet out in the lane, but the synergy wasn't quite there.
Portal.
Now,
this has got to be it. If they're going to get a punishment, this is a nice palm. Leyline there froze 3 people, but that's going to be punishment. Nice Tormented Souls, getting quite a bit of damage onto Team Dignitas. Wubby's going to go ahead and pull him back, make sure getting no more value. JPL's armor is ticking upwards, but the debuff is there. He gets one last heal,
nice
but
job,
MJ comes in. He gets the bite, and look at this, beyond the game. They're fighting back.
Yeah, you know, they lost their mid-keep. They fought 12 versus 16, but there's the power of Tormented Souls. There's the power of Malthael against Garrosh, recognizing that Dignitas has used a number of heroic abilities. And the fact that Zeliar got that Divine Palm on himself off in time was actually pretty impressive too. It could have been worse for Team Dignitas. That could have easily been a triple kill. The way Greymane jumped on Karateam there, and very nice Divine Palm really staved off a bit of a comeback.
Dignitas is going to go ahead and back out, pick up their night camp. It seems a little early for them. Normally, it seems like they would try and wait it up for the next objective, but they do have the 3-level and talent tier advantage. So where are they going to capitalize on this type of window? It's just a bit inconvenient because the double camp on bottom and the lack of wave clear, even though they pick up the camp, is going to lead to a free rotation, and that's why I was saying a bit early for Dignitas, even for them.
Yeah, because now Dignitas has to clear camps for a while, when ideally they would have liked to maybe contest enemy bruiser camp with such a big level lead, but they need to deal with that problem, or they will give the entire bottom fort away if they choose to fight somewhere else.
Wubby is in a hairy spot here, but no Leyline Force. That's one of the only windows of opportunity available for Beyond the Game, because the Dragon Knight phase coming up, and again, you're down to 16 talent tier. It is the 3rd most impactful talent tier, minus number 1, your heroic, number 2, your 20 talent spike, and then 16 is the next most powerful one here in competitive Heroes of the Storm. Wubby's going to make the transition up towards top. Snitch has already secured that Moon Altar down below. And so getting that isolation kill towards top, this is a very risky rotation twice in a row from Wubby, but Beyond the Game just not there to capitalize.
Wubby will be busy clearing that camp. Now, BTG could, in theory, force a fight, but Wubby will, of course, give up that camp for free if he needs to burrow to help his team. There's that big level lead for Dignitas too.
Dignitas, by having that middle keep down and the catapults constantly pressuring too, it's going to only, you know, show the rotations of Beyond the Game between these two lanes that much more. So much so that Arthas has to backdoor the bottom shrine. Look at, he's flanking around his own minion wave trying to get the backdoor.
Yeah, that's a good job.
It's actually amazing that Dignitas did not expect this and is struggling to be able to find a way to force the fight when they've had such a colossal talent tier advantage.
Well, they had this semicircle around the top right, and they thought they pretty much had them all. Nice cleanse on A, he will get away. I think they were under the impression that BTG would deathball more than they did.
Yeah.
And BTG does a good job of cat and mousing, being the mouse, being the down in talents and levels. If they can pull this one off as well, that's another nice delay. Oh, Wubby saves the
He's got
lasers.
isolation. If he wins the one, he has to take the 1v1 with only an isolation. Members are going to get the collapse. Wubby abusing that passive. He dodges the Howling Blast, and now all of Dignitas is there in that shrub.
Oh, Icebound. And Malthael takes away the lasers again. We'll use On a Pale Horse to run. Nice dodge on that swift strike final damage at the end.
But 16 talent tier is not going to be here, at least unless they take them top wave and middle wave, and nobody's taking the time to try and sit up there. Interrupt number 1 with that death coil. Wubby starts channel number 2. Interrupt from ST. 3rd time's a charm. No, but the pull in the top.
Damn.
Snitch brings out the Dragon Blade. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good night. Beyond the Game is out here.
The quickest 5 kill that I've seen in the entire tournament. This is ridiculous.
Just deleted the entirety of the Chinese team. That was just filthy. Man, I'm not going to be able to hear anything other than that from Snitch for like a week now.
Yeah, only one heroic got used by BTG here. That was just insane. Interrupt 1, interrupt 2, interrupt 3. It's like Dignitas was living life faster. They saw everything in slow motion. They pressed the buttons, and BTG was standing there, mouth agape. What just happened?
I'm sitting here, I'm still struggling. I don't know who did more damage in that situation. Was it Poik with the Calamity damage, or was it Drag? I know we saw the first Dragon Blade hit 3, and then the health bars were immediately like, this is Reset City. And then from that point on, I just blinked, and beyond the game was out.
It's crazy. The JPL Garrosh double pull in into taunt with all that damage piling in. Crazy.
Brilliant game.
Double reset comp with Garrosh.
Though Dignitas had, you know, an advantage, you know, asserted dominance from minute 1, and a lot of that game they were in control. I still want to highlight, mainly when you were talking about the lack of death ball and that huge advantage that we saw Dignitas have, where I was talking about their struggle to force the fights that they wanted. I do agree with you. I think that was more beyond the game, making the kind of play that Dignitas didn't think they would, saying a lesser team's going to do this, we're going to be able to catch them off, and they at least stalled out for that middle fight. Yes, that middle fight was absolutely dominant, but that was just a very advantageous initiation for Dignitas,
yeah.
And that game could have at least been extended a little bit longer, and purely because of the great rotations beyond the game had.
BTG managed to get that level 16, but don't even have a second to think about how they want to fight, because they were under so much pressure, having to interrupt that Dragon Knight, which would have been a threat